What we hope you'll get from this module. Well, there's a lot here, but really the key we want to focus on is improving the installation quality. Now, this does not replace full training that you might get from a manufacturer or distributor or from a certification course that you may take on HVAC, air conditioning, or heat pumps. This is really designed to give you the overview and help you understand what is involved in ductless heat pumps as a business. And hopefully this will give you the motivation to take another step and get that right training and get hands-on experience to move forward. The outline for today, we're going to cover some of the basics. Some of this will be review if you've sat through some of the other modules. If you have not yet, this will hopefully catch you up. Then we're going to talk about line sets. Line sets are the refrigerant lines that run from the outdoor compressor to the indoor head, and we're going to talk about them. We'll talk about those outdoor units or compressors as well as the indoor heads. Then we'll talk a little bit about some of the common mistakes we find in projects, and we'll wind up with resources at the end, things that you can use to help move you forward in your journey to adopting ductless heat pumps. We'll start with the basics. So along this, we've come up with this path to ductless contracting success, and it's a four-step process. The 4 modules that we've developed don't line up exactly with these 4 steps, but each one of them is a critical component to helping make sure you get through these 4 steps. So we've already covered the basic awareness, sales and marketing, and we've talked a little bit about firsthand experience. This is really going to think about installation training and the skills and value proposition along the bottom of the path. And the hope here is, again, you get this experience, you get this training, and this pushes you forward to move down the road of contracting success. So let's keep going with the basics. A DHP system, or a ductless heat pump system, also referred to as a mini split heat pump. And the reason why it's a mini split is if you notice the size of the compressor, the outdoor unit here, it's about 1/3 to 1/4 the size of an old compressor for a standard air conditioner or a central heat pump. Hence the term mini split. With mini split or ductless heat pump systems, there are 4 critical components. The outdoor unit, also called the compressor, is where we're able to take heat from the outdoors, even in cold temperatures. And through the process of refrigeration, compression, and expansion, we're able to actually take heat from the outdoors, even down to very low temperatures, move it through the refrigerant lines to the indoor head, where an air movement, a fan coil, moves air over these refrigerant lines and extracts that heat back out. And the process works the same in reverse through cooling. So that's the outdoor unit. The refrigerant lines connect them, and then the indoor head has a high efficiency fan that's actually able to modulate its speed according to the needs of the house. This is all managed by the controller, sometimes referred to as the wand, the one that's pictured here. Now, the wand is kind of a glorified remote control that's really designed to control your ductless heat pump. For those of you, or for some of your customers who prefer the wall-mounted thermostat that they're used to for their other heating systems, most manufacturers do make a wall-mounted controller as well, and so that is an option, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little later. We also want to remind you that the Northwest Ductless Heat Pump Project is really looking at ways to get into the market at the lowest cost for consumers, so we can hopefully see adoption move pretty quickly. When we think about that, we look at places where electric resistance heat is the heating source for the home. That is our #1 priority. And instead of trying to replace the entire system, which can be done, absolutely, we're looking to use a process we call displacement. So we look at the pre-existing condition here, where there's baseboards in all the rooms, or they might be wall heaters, and they're used to heat each room individually. What if we could displace the use of the baseboards in the main body of the home, where people spend the majority of their time? If we do that, it's called a displacement approach. And this way we can typically put in a single head, indoor head, and a single compressor outdoors, get air conditioning and get this nice heat pump heating into the home at the lowest cost to the consumer, while still reducing their energy bills anywhere from 30 to 50%, depending on the size of the home and its design. So with displacement, We put that single head DHP in the main living area, and it's going to do the bulk of the job for the parts of the home that people spend the majority of their time. Now, you still want to use your baseboards or your wall heaters in the bedrooms particularly, and you may want to turn those down a few degrees, 2 or 3 degrees. And it turns out most homeowners are okay with their bedroom being just a couple degrees cooler than the main body of the house. So with this approach, the ductless heat pump does the lion's share of the work for heating and cooling of the home, and you still have these baseboards or cadet wall heaters for those instances where you still need some additional heat throughout the house. In doing this, we provide summer air conditioning to the home. It's about half the heating cost of heating with electric resistance heat. And again, we're not actually telling you to take out the baseboards. Those can actually remain and provide that backup heating throughout the house. There are other options. If you have a centrally heated system in the home, you could do something in a replacement system, something like putting in a multi-head mini split system. So this is one or more compressors outdoors and several different heads indoors. This would allow you to provide heat pump heating and cooling throughout the home, or you could do a centrally ducted heat pump. So it replaces sort of like a furnace, and they actually have mini split versions of these, and they'll do a fine job. We want to really tell you, though, this is a much more complex strategy than displacement, and that's really not what we're hoping to cover today. So if this is something you're interested in, you're going to want to get further training down this road, but we do want to admit that this is absolutely a possibility, and this is something that for some homes is really necessary to do. But again, we're not really going to cover this much more than just letting you know that this is an option for homes that really need it. Now, there are some required tools for doing these installations, and if you're already doing HVAC in homes, you probably have most of these tools already. If not, you're going to want to purchase each of these. And even if you have some of these tools, we may ask you to purchase a separate set just for these DHPs. And I'll explain as we go through why that is. The first, you want an R410A ratchet flaring tool. And the reason why is that the flares that come factory designed from the factory, from the manufacturer, are really designed just to keep the thing together as it's being shipped. They're really not ideal for the rigor that will be necessary once these systems are fully charged. So you're going to want to create a new flare so you have excellent connections. You're also going to want to make sure that your R10A flaring tool and your gauge and hose set are specific for R410A. So if you're working on other systems with other refrigerants, go ahead and keep that equipment and use it for other systems, but you really want one designed for R410A for a couple of reasons. One, you want the thing that is the tools that are most appropriate for the product you're going to be using, but also the oils that are used to make some of these connections can be different for different refrigerants, and we don't want any cross-contamination. You will want a programmable refrigerant charging scale, and we'll talk a lot more about this in a bit. It's often not necessary for a displacement installation. It really depends on the manufacturer and brand that you're using and whether or not you have to add additional line set beyond, say, 25 feet. But having this tool is going to be really critical for those times where you do need to weigh in some more refrigerant. And finally, a torque wrench. We know a lot of contractors say, my elbow is calibrated. I know how to tighten this just right. And while that may be true in some cases, the joke is that, you know, a 6-year-old child with a torque wrench is going to more accurately get your flare nuts tightened than would a seasoned professional with a monkey wrench. So really, it's a good idea to have a torque wrench so you don't over or under tighten any of your flares.